You're rolling?
We're good.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Chris Villa, and I'm your mayor here in the city of Holly Hill, and I want to welcome you all to the City Commission meeting of June 25th, 2024. I'm your mayor, Chris Villa, and I call this meeting to order. Val, please call the roll.
Commissioner Penny?
Here.
Commissioner Curry?
Here.
Commissioner Daniel?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Mayor Villa?
Here. And I want to remind you all at this time to please silence your cell phones or any electronic devices that could make noise to disturb the meeting at this time. And I'm going to ask you to all please stand for the invocation presented by our Vice Mayor, John Penny, and afterwards continue standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
So my prayer for our community in this meeting tonight is that we leave here with clarity, comfort, spiritual guidance, and healing. So I've asked someone that's provided all of these things to myself and my family personally to lead our invocation tonight, Pastor Chuck McEwen.
Thank you, Commissioner Penny. I remember something that somebody said to me years ago when I left a church that I pastored many years in Indiana. They said, Pastor, once you're gone, you're going to be remembered. And when people talk about you and they mention your name, they'll do one of two things. They'll either pucker or duck. And sometimes I think probably even city commissioners may feel that way. But don't. But don't. We respect you. We love you. We love our city. Heavenly Father, we bless you tonight for the opportunity to be here to be involved in this exercise of city government. And Father, I'm reminded of what Jesus said in Scripture. In John chapter 8, verse 32, He said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." Amen. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Now for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you very much, Vice Mayor, for inviting Mr. Pastor Chuck McEwen. You've done so much for our community, not only Holly Hill, but the greater community, but so much for our inner community. And with your serving the needs, serving the hungry within our community, and showing so much love, and you are an asset to our community. I just want to say I appreciate you and thank you for being here tonight with that prayer and those words. We appreciate that. So I want to welcome everybody here to the City Commission meeting. As I said before, I am your mayor, and it's no surprise to see so many people in the audience. I think the last time I saw this many people in the audience was when I was getting sworn in. So my dad always warned me that you're either going to after you get sworn in, you're going to get sworn at. So, but look, we're here today about a much serious item that many of you are interested in here. And let me just say, on a personal note, over Father's Day weekend, I took the time to go through the IA report, as many of you here did. And when I did, I was disturbed by what I read. I was disappointed by what I read. And I had a lot of questions that I wanted answers to. And over the last week and a half, I've gotten a lot of phone calls, obviously, from citizens and business owners and friends asking the same exact questions that I had, and that I went to our city manager and to our city staff and got those answers. And so we understand that you have many valid questions that need to be answered. And so this is unusual for the meeting. Usually we go right into public comments, but we thought it was important tonight for transparency purpose to go ahead and answer all of those lingering questions, the ones that I've been fielding nonstop since the report has come out. City staff as well as I'm sure the City Commission received those same phone calls. So, and I know I've spoken to many of you here in the audience. I'm looking out and seeing many familiar faces, but I still think it's important, and I ask that the city manager provide some of those answers. And then afterwards, I'm going to then open up public comments and allow you to to come up and speak and say whatever you want for 5 minutes about anything not on our agenda tonight. And you can feel free to ask questions, but I just want to remind everyone that this setting isn't a Q&A. On Thursday night, we will be hosting right here in these same chambers a meet and greet with our new police chief who's coming in to be sworn in. And so you'll be able to meet him, you'll be able to hear his vision, but you'll also be able to ask questions. And I expect other people to be there that couldn't have been here tonight, and so we will be answering these same questions there as well. So at this time, I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware that we're going to go through this process that way, and I'd ask for everybody to please stay respectful throughout this meeting. Everyone will get their chance to speak. I promise you that. We want to hear it, and we welcome all comments from the audience. So with that, at this time, I'd like to turn the microphone over to our city manager, Mr. Forte.
Thank you, Mayor. So I was asked to put together a brief, I don't want to say presentation, but a brief statement about primarily what would be the infamous email that everybody is talking about. So I'm going to just go right into it, and then afterward, as we take public comment, I'll keep note of any question that's not addressed, and I'll do the best I can to address those questions, keeping in mind that there are still outstanding lawsuits, both personal and through the EEOC, so some questions I may not be able to answer, and I'll probably lean over to Scott for some advice if I need to. So let me begin. So to gain insight into the decisions I made, we need to kind of rewind the clock several months before September 20th, 2023, when Robert Milne sent me an email. It's crucial to apply the reasonable person standard. Was the decisions I made then reasonable based on the facts available at that time? I aim to answer all the questions openly tonight and transparently. I'm going to try to address the Robert Milne email of September 25th, 2023, as well as the resignations of Miller, Yates, and Fountain, Bentley's demotion and pay decrease, and the actions taken against Investigator Ballantyne. I have compiled nearly 4 pages in response to what I knew of Robert Milne's email and the circumstances at that time. I reviewed again everything he stated in the email and to the investigators, and I've researched every claim he made. Some of it is quite technical and contains matters of labor law, the police officer's Bill of Rights. So for time's sake, I'll go through the areas that are pertinent to this case specifically. But I want you to know I have much more detailed information on everything that was stated in the email. Here's what I knew. Jeff Miller served as police chief and at the time was considered to be serving well. No one, and I'll emphasize no one, approached my office or HR with reports of inappropriate behavior or language, except once when his assistant raised concerns to HR about his frequent use of explicit language using the F word. Although she requested confidentiality, when I was informed that same day, I promptly directed Miller to adjust his language. More recently, a memo was issued to the department-wide to cease the use of foul language. It should be noted, before Miller was appointed police chief, I personally met with every sergeant, including Milne, and specifically asked if they had any reservations about his appointment. I received no objections. That would have been an opportune time for Milne to make me aware of his concerns. It never happened. On September 25th, 2023, I received an email from Robert Milne that seemed to be a personal attack or a character assassination against Miller, possibly stemming from Milne's recent unsuccessful pursuit of a disability pension. It was no secret that Milne and Miller disliked each other. The email raised questions about Milne's credibility, given the timeline and circumstances surrounding his departure from the department. I'm going to give you a little bit of a timeline that I knew at that time. September 30th of 2021, Milne voluntarily demoted. He would have you believe it was for various reasons, when in fact it was because he failed to properly handle a missing persons investigation, and in lieu of an IA, he self-demoted and signed a release waiving any and all rights to the grievance process or to make any claim against the city, all this in the presence of his union representative. January 25th, 2022 was the last time Robert Milne worked as a police officer in the Holly Hill Police Department. He went out on family medical leave. February 3rd of 2022, Milne's law enforcement authority was suspended. I'm unable to expand on the details surrounding the suspension of that authority. April 25, 2022, Milne exhausted all of his FMLA and was separated from employment. In essence, he was terminated. Robert Milne did not retire from the Holly Hill Police Department, as some may have thought. August 12, 2022, a workers' comp benefits denial form regarding Milne stated, the claimant knowingly and intentionally made false, fraudulent, and misleading oral and written statements regarding the alleged accident in support of his claim and in order to obtain workers' compensation benefits, thereby discrediting him in my mind. On April 17th, the pension board unanimously voted against Milne to sign a denial order letter in former Milne's disability case. All were in favor. Milne's credibility was further challenged when he waited 20 months after leaving the department and 17 months after he was separated to disclose his concerns to me. His timing coincided with the denial of his disability pension, raising doubt about his motivations. To further my concerns of credibility, within the email, Milne declared himself spiraling out of control, suffering from panic attacks, nightmares, suicidal ideation, the process of forming ideas from conception to implementation, alcoholism bringing on board depression and anxiety, and blacking out in his patrol car. All these statements steered me to reach a conclusion that Robert Milne was being vindictive and lacked credibility. All that information is in the public record in the email that was produced. There's no secret in what I just said. To be abundantly clear, at no point in all of my years working here did anyone ever report any inappropriate behavior taking place in the police department, especially not to the magnitude that has recently been reported. Milne's email insinuated inappropriate behavior from Miller over 7.5 years of his tenure that he had with Holly Hill Police Department. It should be noted that Milne's email did not have any indication of the circumstances uncovered during this IA. He alleged various misconducts by Miller, such as inappropriate viewing of videos and other behaviors, which I addressed promptly with Miller the next day. I concluded that there was no issues with an officer eating her meals in her patrol car. That was not unusual. I also concluded that the videos mentioned were not that of porn, as some may have imagined, but were Netflix shows. To this day, that's all that I've been told. And the photos of Traylor's ex-girlfriends were described as Traylor boasting about them, not so much as Miller asking for them. It all seemed plausible at the time. After the Volusia County Sheriff's Office interviews, Yates and Fountain resigned under investigation, akin to a termination. Concerning Bentley, while it was challenging to conclude wrongdoing, 2 allegations were sustained, resulting in his demotion. The appropriate CJSTC Form 78 was completed on all 4 of them and sent to FDLE as required. With regard to Bentley, I demoted him from Sergeant to MPO 2, Master Patrol Officer 2. The reason for making him MPO 2 was to avoid the opportunity for Bentley to be able to promote up to MPO if I demoted him to Patrol Officer, thereby receiving a wage increase, and that's exactly what I was trying to avoid. I want to be clear when I say that he received a pay decrease, as some have stated he has not. The fact is he's now earning 10% less than he was as a sergeant, period. Any reference to percent raises due to his position are due to the union contracts, which include differential pay for certain positions. The bottom line is he's annually making 10% less than he was prior to his demotion. The reasons for the decision to demote rather than terminate is due to the information that I received in the IA about Bentley. The claims made and subsequent investigation did not rise to the level of termination as some would think. Even after a lengthy discussion with the city's attorney assigned to this case, it was agreed that termination would not be applicable. Lastly, Officer Ballantyne was suspended for a week. His indiscretion sending the calendar invite was reviewed, and the ladies involved were interviewed by the Human Resources Manager. It was determined that a week's suspension was appropriate for his actions. Reflecting on the situation in the same hindsight that most of you do that are sitting in this audience, I do regret not advancing the matter to an IA, knowing what I know today. Going forward, all allegations will be thoroughly investigated and referred to Internal Affairs as necessary. With the appointment of B.K. Williams as the new police chief starting on July 8th, I expect positive changes and full compliance within the Holly Hill Police Department. That's my statement, Mayor, and I'll be available. Obviously, I'm here to answer any questions that come up this evening at your direction.
Thank you very much, Mr. Forte. And so now we will go to our public comments section of our agenda here tonight. And so I see a lot of new faces, but these are the guidelines that we have always followed here. And so I'm going to read them out loud. This is the audience's opportunity to address the City Commission about anything not on our regular agenda tonight. Before we begin, I would like to go over some of the guidelines for public comments to ensure our meeting runs efficiently and respectfully. I will call upon members of the audience to speak one by one, selecting those who raise their hand to indicate that they wish to speak. When you speak, please introduce yourself by stating your name and address clearly for the record. Make sure to speak directly into the microphone so that your comments are recorded accurately. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes to address the City Commission on matters not included in our regular agenda. And when you have 30 seconds remaining, I will ask that our City Clerk ring a bell once. And when your time expires, the City Clerk will ring the bell again. At that point, please conclude your remarks. To be fair to all who wish to speak, each person will only be allowed to come to the podium once for public comments and will not be permitted a second time. However, you may come up later in the meeting to speak on items that the Commission will be voting on to comment on those items specifically. This is to ensure everyone has equal opportunity to speak. I ask that you please be mindful of your time and the time of others. I ask that you please be courteous and respectful to other speakers and the proceedings of the meeting. Repeated disruptions may lead to a removal of the meeting. Additionally, this is your opportunity to address the Commission and make your comments known. This is not a question and answer session, as I stated before, and we cannot respond to every question immediately. However, we will listen to your questions if you have any, and our city staff will take note of them, as we talked about earlier, to provide answers to you. I want to thank you all for your cooperation, and we look forward to hearing your comments. So at this time, we will open up public comments. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand, and I will call you up one by one. You had your hand up first, ma'am. If you want to come up, you can come up. And I'll just remind everyone when they come up, just state your name and address for the record, and then you'll have 5 minutes, and please direct all your comments towards me.
It's hard, but I will.
Thank you.
My name is Robert Milne, and I live in New Smyrna Beach, Florida. I am a retired police officer from the city of Holly Hill. I'd like to, first I'll just make a few comments here. At no point in my life while working here I was ever disgruntled. I did not get along with Chief Miller for obvious reasons. I had 30-some-odd years of experience. A lot of that time was spent as a watch commander, New York City Police Department, and I had a perfect record. Never had an IA in all those decades until Miller got his hands on me. But he found out I was going to HR, which I was, and I had gone 3 times. Okay? As far as Mr. Forte says, he got with every sergeant. Not me. I never talked to you. So I don't know. Maybe you talked to a few of them, but I got to stand up for myself on that. I'm calling that out. I never had any issues with Mr. Forte. I've always even said to him in the email, "You're a nice guy. You did look out for me when I was suffering from PTSD." When I had put in my papers, first of all, I was never suspended for anything. I had gone to the psychiatrist, Dr. Hoffman, and I had told him all the problems I was going through. I've been going to therapy for my PTSD since 2018, and it's documented. It's spiraled out of control from the many incidents I've had to deal with as a cop, okay, prior and here. I was leaving on my own, and I was going to quit until I was advised by my PBA representative that this can actually, be considered line of duty. So you owe it to your family to put in for disability. I did. I really, at this point, I had 2 years left to retire with a full pension. I had no reason to leave. I've worked the streets of Brooklyn, been involved in shootings by the age of 22. Miller is not going to scare me out of my position, okay? I can stand him while standing on my head for 2 lousy years and collect a pension right now. I'd be collecting it. Because today, this month would be the day I'd be collecting, okay? I loved the people I worked with in the city of Holly Hill. I loved the officers I worked with. Of course, the command staff, yes, they had their problems. I'm not going to rehash that. It is what it is. They did what they did. I said in that statement, from the heart, if you read it, it's very professionally written, and it was from the heart, and I meant everything I said. I care about the people I left behind. I wish I could have stayed. I really could have. But I was in a very bad position in my life, okay? This job will do that to you. And I felt like I abandoned them, because I did see all the frat house shenanigans and going-ons. And the reason why no one's going to complain and go to the city manager is because he's a vindictive, SOB. I mean, the guy would come after you, and it's career suicide. Everyone knows that it's career suicide if you come forward. They're never going to get a job anywhere else. You get blackballed. I think it's extremely brave of the first female officer that came out and made that comment, because it's very hard. This day and age, this job is very difficult for women. And I've never had any problems. He found out I was going to HR. He wrote memos saying I didn't see what I said I saw and all this other nonsense and rubbish. I wish the HR lady was still here. She would vouch for me that I did go to her on several occasions. Marquez, I think, was coming in as I was leaving the office one time, and I think she even actually made a comment to Marquez in regards to, was it really that bad? He actually had Officer Rivera write a statement for him. He had him change it 3 times on the night of the Rayner incident. 3 times. Okay, you can't tell an officer to change their statement. Their statement is their statement. And he had him stop. He had him stop it right where it says, "I got on scene," and that was it. There's body camera footage, for God's sakes. But he says, I told him some nonsense. I have no reason to lie about that. I can bring up 3, 4, 5 other incidents that was very disturbing for me as a supervisor. I got 20 more.
Yeah, 30 seconds. Yeah.
So anyway, I'll round it up to listen, I really hope things go well with the new chief. I have talked to him. He's a really nice guy. I think you guys are very lucky to have him. And the people that are remaining, with the exception of Bentley, I think are all excellent cops, and they deserve to be here. And I'm very proud of them for sticking through all of this, as well as yourselves. All right? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Milne. All right. Now, if you'd like to raise your hand, if anyone else would like to speak, just raise your hand. I'll call on you. In the back, his hand went up first. And then, Mary, I'll go to you next. Just state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Sir, it's James Kinney, and 4545 Clyde Morris Boulevard in Port Orange. I want to start off by saying I hope this never happens to your wife, your daughter, or your mother. And if it did, how would you feel? Hoping your loved one's supervisors would do the right thing by them and not make them feel more humiliated and angered than they already are. Must be pretty embarrassing. But the way you're handling this is one blunder after another. How is creating a position for Sergeant Bentley that no one else has or will ever have as a punishment? How is giving a former sergeant a master patrolman in CID? You created a position specifically for him. How is that a demotion? He lost no money. He stays in his cushy office, same vehicle, same culture to reward. He can still supervise the victims and have contact with them. He needs to put on that officer badge on a uniform and be humiliated daily patrolling the city of Holly Hill streets, just like the victims have been doing. Allow people to see his name and say, yeah, that's that guy.
Please respect the speaker.
Bentley lied, he omitted facts, he perjured himself, and he didn't uphold his oath. You know the report says it from an outside agency that investigated it, and you still allow him to be here. He is a terrorist, and you negotiated with him to keep his cushy position. What have you done for the victims? Send them some sexual harassment training that they had to get done right away on their off time? They don't need that. Bentley has more than enough violations to have his law enforcement certification revoked. The sex on duty is just one example of his lack of moral character. Just because he said it didn't happen doesn't mean it's the truth. Then, while this entire incident is playing out, another one of the officers has a nice calendar invite to get a female laid and drunk, a bunch of predators in CID. It all goes back to the culture. Ballantyne should not be in his position either. Give some of the great officers that have stuck it out here a shot at being an investigator or a training officer. They're the ones that deserve not these two buffoons that are bringing more and more shame and scrutiny to this agency. There are some great officers here that would love to be in those positions and would do a wonderful job. They would likely bring a refreshing new outlook and culture to a division that needs some help. It might be a morale booster. I want you to know that no one has apologized to the victims. No one has said anything to them. You treat them like second-class employees. You strip them of their position. You change their schedule. Seasoned members of this agency are treated like day-one rookies. My dog is treated better than they are. They know the culture and what needs to be changed. But you allow Ballantyne, who brought dishonor to himself and the agency, to be an operational supervisor. He's part of the problem. And Mr. Forte, I am angered and outraged, and I condemn your actions on how you're handling this. You tell the victims no to changing their schedule when you have done it for so many others. You tell the victims no to using MPO to cover patrol shifts, but you're going to just go and do that anyway. You are a hypocrite. You are either retaliating or discriminating against the victims. It's either one or the other. Everything is a no for the victims and yes for everyone else and everything else. No one's asking you to kiss their butts, but how about what might be best for the victims instead of how can I put the screws to them? You were warned by the victims about Miller being a poor choice for chief and not to hire him. There was a reason why they told you that, as you can see. You were told in an email. The problems in your police department, still nothing is done. But you blame Miller, and you try to distance yourself from it all, or call the other guy a disgruntled employee. But the fact is, it's all on your hands. Counsel, you should take a stand, request Joe Forte's resignation if you really want to send a message that these actions will not be tolerated, or you can keep your head in the sand. Now the victims uphold their oath. They tell somebody that another female is being harassed. Why did it take them? Why didn't Bentley do it? He was with those two constantly, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. What would have happened if the victims blew off writing that memo? That they had to give to Miller, the main subject of the harassment, to start the investigation? You have a defective policy? These victims have been in your office before, and then the next day they're in HR getting counseled for going outside their chain of command. Would the victims have gotten the same treatment that Bentley got if they failed to report the harassment? Flush years of faithful service down the drain? You would have fired them and likely not done any investigation, as that is your past practice. Stop putting off the decisions for the new chief to make. You were in charge when it happened. Now, you make the decision now. Take the gloves off and stop being soft on them. Put them on patrol as officers. Banish them.
Conclude your remarks, sir. Thank you. All right. And now, Mary, you can come up. And please, I know you want to show support, but let's keep it to clapping. Don't clap while they're speaking. It may take away from their time. Go ahead. Just state your name and address.
Mary Teresa Nichols, 1715 Anniston Avenue, Holly Hill. I'm a little emotional tonight about all of this, but I do want to, this was not what I was going to say, but I'm a little saddened by the fact that we had to bring up Officer Milne's struggles that he had mentally with his PTSD and let everybody know all of that. Did we get him some help? What happened there? Because I'm a little disgusted with that whole rebuttal on all of that. But on a side note, I wanted to speak out to the women on our police department and in our city offices. Let them know that the community supports you and stands by you. Police officers that dedicated their lives to protect and serve our community put through horrible harassment and assault every day on their jobs. How these women were able to show up every day and deal with these horrific men is beyond me. We need to come together as a community and rebuild the relationship with the police department because there's absolutely no trust. between the community. Domestic violence victims, rape victims, how will they ever feel comfortable reporting anything in the city? Bringing in a new police chief is simply not enough to ease people's minds. I hope there will be charges brought up against these people, these former officers, because after reading the report and what they did is beyond sickening to me. What's the plan going to be going forward to ensure these things are not going on and that our officers and our city workers are in a safe working environment? That's the biggest concern I think that I have. And I think we have a lot of room to grow with this, because this is something that you see in a movie. So I just cannot believe how speechless and how sick I was reading that whole report. It's beyond words. So that's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Nichols. Anybody else would like to speak? Just raise your hand. Yes, sir. And just state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 5 minutes.
My name is Mason Godfrey. I live in Ormond Beach. I'd like to start by saying that I worked here as a police officer for the city of Holly Hill from 2019 to 2020 at the peak of COVID. It seems to be a blessing in disguise. I would like to start by saying that you, Mr. Forte, took time out of this meeting and everyone's day to discredit someone who struggles with mental health, Sergeant Milne. Literally 10 minutes of this meeting was spent discussing his personal matters that are completely irrelevant. It actually made you sound like you might have been vindictive against him for filing the medical leave claims and all of that. I'm just absolutely disgusted in the way that this has been handled. I grew up in a household with a honest police officer. My dad's been in law enforcement for 37 years. This is unacceptable. It's absolutely disgusting. And that's all I have. I just really am very disgusted at the way that you called him out for 10 minutes about his mental struggles and things that he's obtained from his time of service. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Godfrey. Yep, in the back, Mark. Just state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Sure. Name's Mark Dickinson. Address is confidential under 119 statutes for former law enforcement. I don't know if you guys want to continue this or not and keep this going. I'm here because someone rolled their eyes at me the other day when I was speaking to your new interim chief here about an improperly filled out Form 78. They corrected it and sent it to me. But this right here, I don't know if you guys see this or not, this is the photo of your new police chief that's coming in right here. Now, if you see that, that's a swearing-in ceremony for Dawn Marie Harris. She's I think a former officer of Holly Hill, Daytona Beach, and now Bunnell. This right here is a CJSP Form 61 that's signed by your new police chief. This is it right here. It's a form that you have to fill out when there's an affidavit of separation. Down at the bottom of this right here, this is Sergeant Don Harris, Subject Officer. This is the piece of paper right here. And at the bottom it says, Sergeant Harris was not interviewed due to being uncooperative. All the charges against her, I think, were sustained. There was a bunch of charges that were it was a tasering that they tased this guy 14 times, I think the count was. And she was saying, tase him, tase him. This form right here indicates, this is a sworn document, this form right here where it's pink highlighted indicates that she retired not involving misconduct. Do you know what that means? She was uncooperative with the investigation. She resigned under investigation. You know what that means? This form's possibly a lie and a criminal offense from the new police chief that's coming in. I'll leave this with you so you have it because it's important. If you're going to change things around here, you got to pick people that are going to be better. I don't think that you have. In addition to that, there's a wonderful woman that's 4 rows back over here. She's right there in the blue shirt. Do you recognize her? That's a woman that one of your officers made up lies on a traffic citation saying she was doing 41 in a 30 miles an hour zone when the speed limit was 45. She didn't show up for court, but Mr. Forte sent me a notice today that said that they called and did that. So that's at least corrected. That woman right there went through hell. For medical exams, worried about her license suspended, and I did a story on it. and she became a good friend of mine. Now, when we jump into this stuff right here, let me go back to this. Let me explain how this works here. I was in an arbitration hearing and videotaping it where the chief of Daytona Beach was told about this form. And he was told that it's incorrect by one of the union reps. I think his name is either Greg Cook or the attorney Brian Lambert. They still haven't corrected it. BK or Brian Williams, that's his signature down there, notarized. Okay? Now when we jump to something else, I got something here. Public records are a pain in the ass, right? They're pretty much a nuisance. That's what I'm hearing from the inside here. I just got an email today when we're looking for different types of records and responses to this right here, that you're going to handle records requests only on Friday. That is a violation of law. You can wake up Mr. Attorney Simpson over here and let him know about that, and he can advise you on it. That's Lakeshore Hospital Authority v. Lilker. You can't set designated times to handle public records. They come in as they are, but you've said it in email that you're only handling them on Fridays. Violation of the law. I don't think that you're going to stop. And there's an AGO 8112 if you want that. 8112 is the AGO that says you can't do that. If you're overwhelmed with public records, be overwhelmed with them, handle them as they come in. But you cannot set scheduled times that you're going to handle public records. Not doing it. Lastly on this, I'm being told that there's a video out there that's an off-duty video that an officer that recently is resigning has at a bar that two people were very touchy-feely. It's probably a $200,000 video, right? I would probably seek to get that. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what's being told. And usually the people that come to me are pretty either valuable information. There's officers, there's city workers, there's people that drive dump trucks that tell me information. And this one's a pretty valuable one that came to me with that. I think one person may have said that they're not an investigator or something like that, but however, stick it to the investigator. Find out where it's going to be. Where's this video at? It'll save maybe the city a lot of money. With that 30 seconds left, the only thing I can tell you is that Holly Hill has been home. My grandfather built a bunch of the hotels up and down here in the 40s and 30s. You're not going to get change if you keep bringing the cancers in that are in this department here. These officers, like Officer Millen over here, I think that's how you pronounce his name. I agree. You don't bring that up. Just like one person said on when Sheriff Chitwood called me a YouTube, what do you call me, a YouTube loser, I think it was. And the third comment was, you don't pick a fight with someone that has 400,000 subscribers. That's it. Do it better.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dickinson. Anybody else? Just raise your hand. Mr. Gary, you raised your hand first. And just state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 5 minutes.
This is a lot of fun, isn't it?
What's that?
I say this is a lot of fun.
Well, you have a larger...
We haven't had this many people in the place since the revolution.
There you go. You have 5 minutes. Introduce yourself, Mr. Legary.
My name is Jim Legary. I come to almost all these meetings. I'm enjoying this one more than most. And I think... I read the report. I was kind of surprised. It reminded me of Liz Townsley. It reminded me of the DeLand Police Department. It reminded me of the Ormond Beach Police Department. In my readings, I found there are 160 occasions a year where police departments are accused of sexual harassment. Isn't that interesting? Do you think they get this kind of participation? If there was this kind of participation as a general rule, do you think that would happen? I don't. I'm amazed that people come out when there's something salacious to talk about. I would think maybe we could, I keep mentioning in the same way that I used to mention concerts, I keep mentioning a community service operator. if there had been somebody like that to go between them and the city manager, who I think is probably seriously overworked, maybe we wouldn't have this situation. I wonder, on a somewhat less, timely thing, is there a way we could get the CRA to put garbage cans by the bus stops? Is there a way we could get the CRA to do something for the people that are standing out there in 90-something degree heat? Yeah, that'll do it for me. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gary. And I'll ask, would anybody else like to speak? Mr. Varga. Thank you. Just introduce yourself, name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
My name is Gabriel Varga. I'm the pastor of the Ridgewood Avenue Baptist Church in the Daytona Rescue Mission. I've come here often lately. It's the only time I have to talk. None of the commissioners, my commissioner, Penny, who is soon to be mayor again, third time, 25-year professional politician here. The commissioners and mayor are the one that are responsible for hiring Mr. Forte. As this investigation is coming forward, it's more and more clear that Mr. Forte has been part of this. He fooled me for a while. But these things that are coming out, I was the police chaplain in Daytona Beach under Sheriff Chitwood for many years. He's my friend. He came in here and made a 104-page report on the sleaziness and wickedness and filthiness that's going on in the Holly Hill Police Department. Mr. Penny, he came to my church. He says, Pastor, you have no business putting anything derogatory about the politicians on your sign from the church or from your pulpit. Did you know, Mayor and Commissioners, the worst sin that God hates is sexual sin. The worst hate, Pastor Chuck can tell you that. He's a Bible student. And when it's brought out and these things are covered up, we've just started to investigate this. My friend Sheriff Chitwood has graciously said that he would police Holly Hill and give us peace of mind, and the citizens can get assured that things will be right. Instead of that, you're ramming in a new police chief. Going to have an inauguration Thursday like nothing's happened. You politicians, you play musical chairs. Burns, he's another 18-year politician here. He's going to run for Penny's old seat because you play musical chairs. You're a bunch of professional politicians. And you're responsible for this. You're responsible for hiring Forte. And this needs to be taken care of. The investigations have just started. The ones that were the premier ones that the chief of police and the captain, they wouldn't answer any questions from anybody. They're hoping that there won't criminal charges be brought against us. They could forget about it. You've had a long term of overlooking sexual sin in the police department. It's been well known that Holly Hill has had trouble in their police department. And you commissioners had too. Yeah. You had a commissioner that was immoral and sexually abused a retarded woman in a retarded home. And you did nothing about it. Nothing. You let him run out his term, and then you hired him. And he worked for the city. That's the history of sexuality here in Holly Hill, Chief Chitwood needs to be hired. And he'll save the city $1,200,000. You ought to graciously do it. You just flip it off. Forte rams in a new police chief. You're going to try to act like nothing happens. The investigations have just started. There's going to be more. And the ones they should be investigating, if they start asking you questions, they start asking him questions, raise your hand. Swear to tell the truth. So help me God. Then if you lie, it's perjury. And you're in big trouble. You can lie all you want now and cover up all you want. You say, preachers shouldn't talk like that. Well, I believe preachers should. And I do as a man of God. So I'm praying for this city. But we got to get back on track. We need Chitwood here as soon as possible. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Varga. You in the back, you had your hand up. And then, Arthur, I'll go to you next. Welcome, sir. When you get to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Paul Tomasi, 1000 Walker Street, Holly Hill. I just want to say, we talked about transparency and the board understanding what's happened. I don't know if transparency can go forward with the same council in place still. I'd like to ask, is the police chief, are they hired, who has the final say on who hires the new chief?
We'll get you that answer.
Okay. I talked to a Seminole County sheriff, retired. I'm new to this town of Holly Hill, been here only 3 years. I can't validate what he said to me as truth, but I do take him for his word. That he said the culture in Holly Hill, and he said, and South Daytona Beach has been the same for many, many years. This council has to make changes for the betterment of the people, not for yourselves. We're in a dilemma right now, and everybody seems to be content. I know you're concerned, but you all look content. First of all, I say no to that gentleman back there, to Chitwood. I don't believe there's a politician on this earth that will save us $1 million. I do say this: the council has all the power to do what's right. I'm not asking you to vote on who should be here and who should not. I do ask Mr. Forte, out of the respect the people of Holly Hill, please resign. And I ask you all to accept it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomasai. Yes, ma'am. Oh, I'm sorry. I already said Arthur would come up next, and then you'll come up next, ma'am. And state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Arthur J. Burns, candidate, City Commission, 294 Jeffrey Avenue, in the beautiful city of Holly Hill. When I told my beautiful wife, Vicki, that I was coming here and I was likely to say some things about a certain about a certain man who was on Facebook saying bad things, I said, if he says the same things here tonight, I'm just going to go, because he wants us to fire all of our police officers, the ones that have not done anything wrong. Because if Chitwood comes in here, and I love Chitwood, he's a nice guy, he's really, he talks about the bad guys as being scumbags, and that's great. But I don't want to lose every single officer in Holly Hill, because his $1.2 million will be because we have 2 officers patrolling the city of Holly Hill. Oh yeah, they'll be able to call people from here and call people from there, But if we have something big happen, our officers might be called to the beachside in Daytona for some of those stupid trucks with a sit in the air. Excuse me, I'm trying to keep my calm, but I'm very upset because he called my name out up here, and he lied. And I wanted to let him know it wasn't 18 years. It was 22 years. I spent every one of those 22 years thinking, what can we do that's best for the citizens of Holly Hill? And that's why I'm running again. Not because of Mr. Penny. I might have run again if he had decided to keep that seat. But I want to see Holly Hill go forward and become a better city with our own police department and our own fine people. We have some great people in that police department. And we need to keep them employed. And going to Chitwood will not keep them employed. We won't need almost any of the support people or the officers. All of those people will be gone. So when you applaud having Chitwood take over, remember that. Those jobs will disappear. And it's always tough when somebody that you put your faith in, who you think is going to do a great job, and then something happens. Is it a mental problem? Is it just something that finally pops to the surface? I don't know. I don't know what caused what happened. But we know who did it, and we have taken care of those people and moved them out. And we've accepted resignations. We have demoted people, and we are letting those people know, or you are letting, because I haven't had anything to do with this. I'm just watching. But the city has said this culture will not continue in this city. And that is what we should be telling everyone. We are working towards the future, and we can only do that if we work together with our own police officers still employed. I don't want to see some of those officers go. As I said, we have some really fine officers. I've spent time with some of them. I don't think any of the commission here has done what I've done, which is ride with the cops and have spend an entire shift with them and seeing what they go through. Yeah, I'm sorry.
More than one.
I understand. I also rode with the sheriffs, so I've seen how the other agencies do it. I like the way that our young officers take care of things, because I was riding with one, and he pulls this lady over, and it was the first time I had met with this officer, and I said, well, you going to write her a ticket? And he says, well, Mr. Burns, if you want me to, I will, but I was just going to give her a warning. And I said, no, I don't want to do anything because of that. I want you to do your normal job. And that is what we have to get back to, where our officers can do their normal job and not have to worry about those creeps that are gone. I have so much more I want to say about Mr. Varga, but I'll go. Thank you.
All right. Yes, ma'am. Come on up. And just state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 5 minutes.
My name is Michelle Pelham, and I live at 85 Mount McKinley Trail in Holly Hill. I've been a resident of Holly Hill for 7 years, although Volusia County 40 years. I'm retired from Volusia County Schools. As a high school math teacher. I'm also the daughter of a police officer. He passed away a year ago at 89 years of age. I've always loved the police. I respect the police. And when I retired, I wanted to become more involved. And when I came to Holly Hill, I got involved with National Night Out. Got to know the police chief. I talked to him when we have Neighborhood Watch. I was here for the award ceremony for the police and met Ballantyne and Yates. Captain Yates ran that. I mean, I respected these people. I've always respected them, and I spent 2 years as a protective investigator with Department of Children and Families and worked with police departments, Edgewater, New Smyrna, Oak Hill, the sex unit from the sheriff's office, and always held police in high esteem, maybe even more so. But I always heard, as a teacher, you're held to a higher standard, and I believe the same for the police. They're held to a higher standard. I read this full report, and I talked to these people. I respected these people, and here they're making fun of women's boobs, and and some of these are investigators. I just sat there with the report. I was like, how can this be? According to the evidence tech, they sit there in CID. It's Bentley, Yates, Valentine, Miller, and went on to explain that the behavior was commonplace and an everyday occurrence in the workplace. Can you imagine me talking about students, making fun of students' boobs and physical... I never would have been a teacher. I would have been kicked out like one word heard. I would have been gone. And then again, the evidence text says the majority of the comments came from Yates, but Bentley, Valentine, and Miller, sometimes Fontaine, were present for these conversations. Women's boobs, watching apps, dating apps with women dancing and bouncing around. None of them attempted to stop the inappropriate conduct. They could have gotten up and walked away. You're sitting there laughing, encouraging this? All the joking, the looking at women's boobs on profiles, talking about them. It was always sexual jokes, sexual comments. So who was in this circle of trust? Yates, Miller, Bentley, and probably Valentine, she said. But it was more than one person making the accusations. It's not based on one person. It's over and over and over again. So the showing of your tits involved Yates and Miller. But Bentley never touched, but was always present during inappropriate behavior. Was always present during inappropriate behavior. A police officer, an investigator. Come on! Bentley was present when Yates put a banana in his pants and called the evidence tech in and said it was laughing. It was Bentley that was laughing and saying, "Don't you see anything unusual here? What kind of people do we have running this department?" And then Valentine's thing is, no, you may refresh my memory eventually, but just right now I can't think of nothing that I've ever heard, because I would have said something. That's how I am. They don't include me in stuff like that. That was his response, okay? Former Officer Justice King observed all three making comments about her ass. Would you tap that? Bentley, Valentine, and Yates. How many times do you need to see their names repeated over and over again? It's not one officer making complaints here. It's over and over again. I can't trust these people. If I have a problem, I got to sit down with Investigator Valentine? Are you kidding me? Please, people. Take care of us. I'm a resident of Holly Hill. I respect you all. I respect our police. We deserve better. Please. I want to keep police in Holly Hill. I like local. I enjoyed meeting them, but I'm horrified that I talk to these people and this is what's going on every day. What about my daughter or granddaughter? If there's an investigation, I've got to trust them with them? I can't. You're in charge. Just do your jobs. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Would anybody else like to speak? Please raise your hand. All right. Yes, sir.
Robin Hanger, 950 Ridgewood Avenue. I've been a resident of Holly Hill for 52 years. I'm 62. I spent 10 years out in Texas. Other than that, I've owned a business here for 40 years. First off, as far as commission or political people being career people, I believe that the seats are open for anybody to come and run for them. I don't believe anybody ran against Mr. Penny. I don't believe anybody has run against some of the others here. So where are those people that want to come up and volunteer their time away from their families? So if you can't volunteer your time, you have no right to be able to say anything about the ones that do run, because we need a political board up here. As far as people being here tonight, comments about it's nice to see people here. It'd be nice to see people come to the commission meetings every night, just to hear what's going on in our city. As far as the police officers here, that's an ongoing investigation. I believe that it's being handled both inside and outside. I believe Mr. Forte has done a wonderful job at handling that and directing the things that what he is allowed to do with investigations going on. I believe you commissioners have done a great job at handling and addressing people that email you. Emails or texts coming to you with no names. Come on, if you got a complaint, have the nerve to say your name and say who you are, and you say these people don't call you back, the commissioners don't call you back. How are they supposed to call you back if you don't give a phone number? We talk about people having credibility. There's one preacher in this house tonight, but there's others that claim to be preachers. There's investigations that need to be done into them too. So we're not here to judge. It's not our job to judge people. He should know that. But he judges every day. I've been privileged to be able to be a part of a lot of growth in Holly Hill. I'm proud of that. I went to school here. I love the city of Holly Hill, and I've helped my portion to help grow it. I do nothing, would never dream of doing anything to hurt the city. So when I hear accusations that are out there from certain people that are in the audience tonight that I have, it really hurts me. But that's their decision. That's their way of thinking. So I just commend all of you for standing up and being a part of this and taking the blunt of all the aggravation that you hear from everybody. That's all I got to say. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Mr. Hanger. All right. Yes, ma'am. Just state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Lynn Smith, 107 7th Street. It's not good what happened, but I think that it's being dealt with, and we have to move on from that. And I'm glad to see that people came out and are not just hiding behind the keyboard warrior, Facebook, stuff like that, because I read all of it, and some of it gets a little crazy, but I think you do try and be responsive. I think all of you are open to communicating with the citizens and listening to what we have to say. It is disillusioning to see exactly what happened with people that we thought were one thing and respected, and I personally, feel that is unfortunate. But I do feel that all of you are good men and women, and so are the citizens of Holly Hill. And it all really comes down to one thing, and that everybody just has to do the right thing. And that's a simple, rule of humanity. If everybody just does the right thing and deals with what needs to be dealt with, and tries to support each other, and takes care of the business that needs to be taken care of, we just have to go forward. Like Robin said, it's bad enough that the city has a negative connotation to it, and this situation certainly didn't help matters any. But going forward, I think that if everybody just does their part, citizens, politicians, staff, and does the right thing, which I'm sure you all do try and do. I feel confident about that. But, if everyone would just come up to more meetings, and I haven't been to a meeting in a while, admittedly, but I think that listening to the people, and not everybody has something really positive to say all the time, but I think that you guys are in the works of, trying to deal with this situation and others. So I appreciate your efforts and everybody else's, and I hope that all of us can, move past what's happened and grow our own police department. I have a lot of respect for Sheriff Chitwood, too. I've met him a number of times, and, I like his style, but I don't think that outsourcing our police department is the way to go, and I hope others don't either. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. All right. Okay, yes, ma'am. Just state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Linda Ennis, 1000 Walker Street, Holly Forest. I just personally want to say how sorry I am and apologize to all of the victims that this happened to. And I also wanted to make sure that this never happens again. And thirdly, I think that we really need to move on. Even though we're hurt, we're all hurt, but I think we need to move on. That's all.
Thank you, Mrs. Ennis. All right, is there anyone else left that did not speak that would like to speak? All right. I'm seeing none, so last chance. All right, I'm seeing none, so I'll close public comments. And I just want to thank you all for coming with all of your comments to the commission here tonight. And I want you to know that you are being heard. And a sampling of that, of the dozens and dozens of calls and emails that I've been fielding over the last 2 weeks, this is what we heard tonight. And I understand that our community is hurting. I understand that our police officers are hurting. My heart goes out to the victims for what happened, and I'm so glad that they were able to finally speak up and for all of this to come about. And my support is with them, and I want to be clear about that. I also want to address why we did things out of order here tonight. I specifically asked Mr. Forte to directly answer exactly what he answered here tonight, because those were questions that I received. I knew that they were questions that you had on your mind, and so I wanted to be able to, for us to be able to provide as much transparency as we possibly could. We will have another meeting on Thursday at 6 o'clock right in here with our new police chief. And a couple of you stated a few interesting things that I want to comment on. First and foremost, it came up that we should look to outsource our police department to the sheriff's office. And I couldn't disagree with that any possibly more than is what is in my bones. There are good men and women left in our police department. We have a lot of fixing to do. And we're going to make sure that we do it. At this point, the only thing we can do is the next best step. And that is what we are going to do. In response to some comments made about Mr. Forte, no one more than myself holds him accountable for anything that happens within the city. And I can't tell you the amount of hours and time that I have put in to talking with him, not only about this, but everything in the city. What I will say is he is an excellent city manager. And what I will also say is he is devoted to coming at this issue, to fixing what is broken. Where we start with this is a new police chief that comes in here that can change the whole entire culture. To bring in, and I met with him just yesterday, had a long meeting with him. He's a wonderful man. I've received many phone calls from other people in the law enforcement community speaking very highly of him. And I believe that he is the fire, the spark that we need to come into this department and make sure that these citizens, I hear you, ma'am, about you want to respect our police officers, and so do I. And I believe that we will have a police force that you will be proud of once again. And as your mayor over the next few months until I'm out of office, because I'm terming out, I'm going to be committed to that goal. I'm going to be committed to making sure that every citizen does feel comfortable with our police force that we have. I'm going to be committed to making sure that we don't go to the sheriff's office, because as it was said, many people like the sheriff, and so do I. But I want Holly Hill police officers here. I want them inside of our schools. I want them pulling over and playing basketball with kids. I want them pulling over and giving toys to kids when they're playing outside. That's what I want. These officers that I know have talked and love this community. And if you saw their passion for serving this community, I think everyone would be behind them. And so that is what I'm committed to. Mr. Forte, I don't know if there were any questions left unsaid that you wanted to address specifically.
There were really not very many questions. There were mostly statements and comments. There was one question about the plan moving forward, and the plan moving forward is we will be hiring a police chief. And I'll just, the question was asked, who makes the final say? The city manager has the final say in hiring the police chief. However, we went through an extensive process of hiring a consulting firm to the Florida Police Chiefs Association. They have a team called the STARS Group that we consulted with. They went out and did the solicitations for the chief. They evaluated the resumes and the applications. They narrowed it down to what ultimately became a list of 14 that were sent questions that they responded to. And from those responses, it was narrowed down to 6. Those 6 applicants were interviewed by myself and 3 other chiefs. Chief Godfrey of Ormond Beach, Chief Fowler from the Shores, and Chief, I forgot, from Ponce Inlet. So there were 3 other chiefs that were involved in the interviews, and we all unanimously selected V.K. Williams to be the next chief of the Holly Hill Police Department. With that, Chief Fowler did do an extensive FDLE background on Mr. Williams, including the issue that Mr. Dickinson brought up with regards to Dawn Harris. And he had cleared that issue, so I'm comfortable with the fact that another chief did investigate that. The other question that came up, no, that was the only questions that came up. So I have, I did apologize to each of the 3 women. It wasn't until this week because I haven't had the proper time. I'm still constrained by things I can say or not say. And I apologize to them again this evening. I think what they went through was horrible. I think Miller is a piece of dirt. Everybody knows that now. But I did what I had to do when I had to do it, when the information came to me, and I responded swiftly, immediately, and took the action I needed to. There was no action to take in September of 2023. If there's any other questions, Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Forte. I appreciate that. And so without any objection, then we're going to continue on to our meeting. And
Can I just ask, do you want us to hold our comments till our commissioner time?
If you'd like to speak it now, you can.
I just wanted to say that the IA was extremely heartbreaking and disappointing for me. Anybody sitting up here have had the closest relationship with that police department.
Just, if you could take your conversations outside, please. Thank you very much.
I've spent many, many years volunteering there since 1998. I've had personal relationships with a lot of the people that are victims. I had relationships with what I now know as scumbags. Sorry, Chitwood, I took your word. I cannot believe what I read in that IA summary report. I have not said anything about it because there is litigation ongoing, but more importantly, other than the litigation, is Florida Department of Law Enforcement still has an investigation, and I'm not about to screw that up because their investigation is where the charges come from and recommendations to the state attorney's office to prosecute. And I hope with all of who I am that there are prosecutions done, because the ladies that were victimized are friends to me, and even if they weren't friends, they should have never been victimized. And for that, I am truly sorry. I'm truly sorry that I never saw anything while I was down there. I'm truly sorry that I never heard anything. I'm sorry. And I know no matter what I say is going to fix that, but you guys mean a lot to that agency, and you're going to be able to help us rebuild from the ashes of what I call distrust and disgrace that went on down there. And I really hope I can count on you to be there to help us rebuild this department, because I feel like on Thursday during the meet and greet we can all have a new beginning with the new chief that is, hopefully the culture is wiped out, but will indeed wipe out that culture. I'll be spending more time down there with you again so that I can see again if anything is going on. Because this needs to stop. It doesn't need to happen anywhere else in the city. It has to stop. And I believe that we have cut the snake off the head. Or the head off the snake. Sorry about that. And I just want to see, I want to reach out to Larissa himself, but I'm afraid I'm probably not allowed to do that as Mr. Simpson looks over at me, because I really hope he takes this very serious and will pursue charges against those men, I guess I'll call them. But again, I am sorry, ladies. I really am. And as far as the VCSO proposal, I asked for that because I wanted to see. I felt and everybody agreed with it, we had an obligation to the citizens to make sure that we were doing the right thing moving forward. That's not the right thing. Chit was a great guy. He's my husband's boss. I'm not going to say anything bad about him. There is nothing bad to say. But it's not right for our community. It's just not a good fit. We deserve to have our own people. And I think the citizens, more of what I've heard, want that. They want their own department. They want a department that they can again trust in and believe in. And I think we can give them that moving forward. And that's all I have to say, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Mayor?
I just want to say that I too feel very sorry for the victims, current employees and past employees. The challenge that we have as an elected official, there's been no appropriate time for me to express that to anyone other than right now. There's legal reasons, privacy reasons, labor unions, this and that, and it's a bunch of crap. And I blame and I'm disgusted at the people that we as citizens of Holly Hill put our public trust in to defend us of the very crimes that they committed against these women. It's terrible. It's unconscionable. And I thought I was a good judge of character because I interacted with these gentlemen on a weekly basis. You're more of an expert than I am to diagnose these things. And I was truly fooled. I never saw anything that would lead me to believe there was any of that stuff that you read in that report. And my whole hope, I'm kind of Pollyanna up here on the commission. I want to see the good in everything. Positivity. Let's be positive. Well, there's nothing really positive about this entire situation except it was brought to our attention. It was dealt with. And all we can do is be positive and move forward and rebuild from it. So, again, I'll say I'm sorry that it happened. I didn't know anything about it. No one on this commission, I believe, knew about it. And when it was brought to our attention, there was swift action taken, and appropriate action taken. So my goal is that we can move forward and build the best Holly Hill Police Department that we can have.
Well said. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Does anyone else want to say anything? All right. We are down a commissioner. She had to step out, but we're going to continue on with the approval of the minutes. We have the minutes from the June 11th, 2024 regular City Commission meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on the minutes tonight? All right, no surprise. Seeing no hands, I close public participation, and I'll entertain a motion for approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the minutes. Any discussion needed? Seeing none. All those in favor on the minutes, Commissioner? All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries 5-0. And yes, at this time I should have broken and allowed anybody, if you want to leave, feel free to take the time to do so, or stick around for the entire meeting. It's very informative. We will now move to our consent agenda, items 1 through 6. The action proposed is slated for each item on the consent agenda. Unless the City Commissioner removes an item from the consent agenda, no discussion on individual items will occur, and a single motion will approve all items. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak about any item on the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll close public participation for the consent agenda. Would any commissioner like to remove an item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, we'll vote on the I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda from Commissioner Johnson.
Yep.
Second from Commissioner Danio. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries 5-0. All right. Now we'll move to our regular agenda tonight. We have 2 items on here. The first one is Resolution 2024-R-46. Mr. Simpson.
Resolution number 2024-R-46 by title only for first and only reading. Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Hollyhill, Florida, awarding the replacement playground at Sunrise Park and authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with the awarded vendor and providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. Mr. Forte?
At the workshop previous to this meeting, Mayor, the Commission, by consensus, agreed to go with the Court Cat playground equipment as it was presented with no changes.
Thank you very much. Are there questions for staff from the Commission? Seeing none, at this time I'll open up to the public. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this item? Yes, sir.
Arthur J. Burns, 294 Jeffrey Avenue. Since it involves Sunrise Park, I wanted to say that I'm president of the Daytona Beach Amateur Radio Association, and this weekend we had field day. We were there for 24 hours straight, talking to the world on without mains power. It was on generators or solar cells. It was all set for in case hurricane hits or something and all of the communications goes down. Amateur radio is there to help with that. And Mr. Forte was kind enough to let us use the park, and we had interactions as various police officers checked on us throughout the night and did their great job. And I think that the playground equipment is going to even make the park better. It's a great park, and it was great to be able to use it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Is there... Yes, ma'am. And as you walk up, Mrs. Smith, Arthur, I'm sorry I couldn't be there for... I know you wanted me to stop by, but you got to text me earlier next time. Give me more than an hour heads up. I got a lot of kids that I have to corral. Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick question.
Just state your name and record.
Lynn Smith, 107 7th Street.
Yep.
This may have been discussed before. I don't know. As you know, I used to walk the park every day, and my friend died in March, and I haven't been back. Can't really bring myself to go yet, but one of the things was what's going to happen with the old equipment. Somebody had told me that it can't be reused or something, like for safety, right? Yes. That's what's going to happen?
Once it's removed.
Okay, that's unfortunate, but that's all right. And then second, I don't know if somehow, and this is just off the cuff, if I could somehow either pay for it myself or somehow get like a little plaque, because many of you know that Ron did do all the weeding and did all the picking up the garbage. He even got the Citizens Award, or forget what it was called, Positivity Award back in the day for all he did at the park. So I don't know if I can discuss with somebody in the future about like a little plaque or something that I could, have in his memory.
Yeah. And, are you done with your comments?
Yes.
I would just say get with Mr. Forte on that tomorrow, and he can point you in the right direction.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item tonight? All right, seeing none, I'll close public participation. I'll entertain a motion for approval to approve the Core Cat design.
Second.
All right, we have a motion made by Commissioner Penny and a second by Commissioner Johnson. And discussion will start. Let me just say, I want to thank the Commission for taking the time on this. This was for anyone that doesn't know, I have 3 kids that play at Sunrise and all of our parks, Ross Point, quite often, and so...
They were our unofficial committee.
That's right. That's right. And the playground equipment looks good from a distance, but when you get close and you realize how many times I've been complaining to our city manager over the last several years of everything breaking on it, it's run its course, its lifespan on that, and so a couple of years ago, we as a commission, we began talking about how can we take that park to the next level, and so this is just one aspect of investing back into Sunrise Park. We are investing quite a bit of good money that we have budgeted wisely over the last several years, so that we can really make sure that diamond shines. I think it's one of the best parks across Volusia County that juts out into the river. It's so unique. So I just want to thank the Commission, though, because when this first came back to us, the playgrounds were not what we really were expecting. We wanted wow factor, and when you see these designs here with a huge pirate ship and a huge tower that the kids are going to be able to go on, it's really special. And just got to give a shout out to my unofficial, I got to make sure it's unofficial expert committee, which are my kiddos, and they give me a lot of feedback, surprisingly so. So just want to thank them and thank the Commission.
Mayor, real quick, the one that we selected is good for varying ages.
Yes.
So that's the great thing. It's not geared towards one age. It's varying ages from little bitty kids. Although my babies aren't here anymore, they moved away, but
right. That's right.
There's going to be lots of kids that can use it.
That's right.
But my grandkids will visit, so see?
So I just want to thank you guys for taking the time and slowing this process down a little bit so that way we could get it right, and I know it's something we'll all be proud of. So is there any further discussion? All right, seeing none, we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the Core Cat design for the playground equipment, and we'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, the motion carries 5-0. Now, number 2 on our regular agenda is a lien reduction, which is 654 6th Street. Mr. Forte.
Thank you, Mayor. The city received a request for a reduction of the lien for a code enforcement lien that was placed upon the property at 654 6th Street. The property is currently owned by Kevin Brown. However, Fowd Stead and Fairs Stead are proposing to buy the property and intend to close on it around June 28th, but no later than the end of July. An order of noncompliance was issued on June 29th, 2018 to the property owner for violations of Sections 26-61 concerning high grass and weeds and Section 26-61, the land development regulations of Holly Hill for vermin. The property remains non-compliant. There were several other code violations that were listed that are not contained in this summary. The order of lien has applied a special master fee of $250 plus $100 for every outstanding fine and $50 per day per violation for 2 violations against the property. At request for lien reduction, the amount of the lien was $204,550. The property went again before the special master on March 22nd, 2024, and was found to be in violation of several sections of the International Property Maintenance Code, as shown in Exhibit B of the agenda item, listed with the attached lien reduction packet. As of yet, no lien has been recorded in connection with these violations. I'm not sure about that. The property was in non-compliance. However, the property the proposed owners are willing to enter into an agreement to bring the property into compliance in exchange for a lien reduction. The property therefore qualifies for a lien reduction under the terms and conditions of the agreement. The city has negotiated with the proposed property owner to pay off the lien in the amount of $21,198.16. That would be payable on or before July 15th or within 2 weeks after the closing, whichever is sooner. All of the property violations need to come into compliance no later than December 31st, 2024.
Thank you, Mr. Forte.
Essentially, there's two conditions have to be satisfied, right?
Correct.
Yeah, the two conditions have to be met for the lien to be reduced. One is the payment, and then the other is not until December 31st, 2024, when it comes into compliance.
Thank you so much, Mr. Forte. Do you know if the applicant is in the room?
I haven't met
Is the applicant in the room? Raise your hand if so.
No, I spoke with the applicant, and he was in agreement with that, with the dollar amount.
Okay.
And I typically tell them, if you are in agreement, you don't necessarily have to come to the meeting, but if you oppose it, you're certainly welcome to.
Okay. Yeah, just because my comment to you this week about it was they had mentioned something about $20,000, up to $20,000, and I want to be clear that this motion will be $21,198.16. That's correct?
That's correct, and they agreed and signed the agreement for that.
And they realized, too, that if they aren't fully in compliance by December 31st, is it? December 31st? Okay, December 31st, 2024, that we will have this $21,000 and then reinstate
Not reinstate. The original lien remains on the property, and we can foreclose upon that.
Okay, all right.
Less than $21,000.
Right. Yeah, it's
less than 21. Okay, all right.
Yeah, I have it in there what the amount is.
Okay. Well, I think, I think this is a good deal that you negotiated, Mr. Forte. We will get this property back into compliance as we all hope it should. Driving by it, it's been a mess for quite some time. So I appreciate you negotiating that. Are there any further questions for staff? All right, seeing none, I'll open it up to public comments. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this lien reduction? Seeing none, I'll close public comments, and I'll entertain a motion for approval as stated by the city manager.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Curry to approve, a second from Commissioner Johnson. Any discussion needed?
Just that this is why we have this program. It's working. It's worked on numerous properties, actually. So,
clean up the property, get it back looking nice. It'll probably be one of the nicest ones once this is all done and over with. So, all right. Any further comments? We'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion carries unanimously. All right. And tonight we do not have any public hearings, so we will move down to our communications. Mr. Forte, do you have anything for us tonight?
Very little, Mayor. Just that I think tonight it's the end of an era and the start of a new. So I think it's time for me to go back to doing my job as the city manager and wait for Chief Williams, when he gets sworn in, Chief Williams, to take over the department on July 8th and set all these things aside and let him do the job that he's hired to do. But from my perspective, it's been extremely time-consuming, and I have a job to do, and I need to get started on that. I need to continue with that, and I'm going to no longer respond to anonymous emails and some of the other, what I'll call, frivolous communications that I've been getting on this. It's time for me to move forward. And I want to thank you and the Commission for their support.
Thank you, Mr. Forte. All right, and next thing is the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Fund applications. Would you like to speak on that?
That's the CDBG-DR.
Yep.
That's monies that were made available to us following some of the hurricanes. Actually, it's money that was made available to the county following the hurricanes that they opened up this application process. So Public Works, Antoine, and especially Steve Young submitted for 3 grant applications. It's competitive, but there's a lot of money that's available, and so we put in for a couple of items. I just closed my my agenda out, so I don't remember what they are. And within the next 30 days or so, the county will be taking votes on that, and hopefully will be funded for at least one or more of those projects that we submitted. So there's no action for you to take. It's just letting you know that we did submit for TDBGRDR funds.
And just for the record, those items are the cleaning and lining of sanitary sewer pipes, the cleaning and lining of storm sewer pipes, and the replacement and flood protection of chemical storage tanks used in the treatment process for water and wastewater. And I just have to say to any staff working on that, thank you, because for the audience listening, the county has quite a bit of money that they just received, that they allocated almost $100 million to give back to the local communities, specifically to address the flooding that we experienced a little while ago, the 500-year flood. And, when we look at the needs here in our community, we recently did a smoke test with our storm system, and to see where breaks are along those lines. And we had 14 miles. Is that right? I'm looking at our public works director. 14 miles that smoke was coming up of pipes, and to put that in terms of money, that's an astronomical amount of money to fix all of that. So what is a godsend is this money to be able to apply for. I hope to goodness that the county does give us this grant, and we can move forward with fixing that. A lot of citizens are here, and from just seeing the day-to-day and maybe not listening to the past meetings, it's a priority for us to fix the storm system here. It's tough with a limited budget. We do what we can. We take on certain projects each year that will give us the most bang for our buck, but now we're getting help from state agencies, and hopefully with the county, and so we look to improve that over time and get us to where we need to be. So thank you, Mr. Forte, for bringing that forward, and any of your staff as well, Mr. Curry, for bringing that forward. And let's pray and hope that we get these funds. So, all right, Mr. Forte, anything to add to that?
That's it. Just thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Simpson, anything tonight?
No comments.
All right. Mrs. Manning? Mr. Gutakis? Nope. All right. My comments tonight, I kind of said a lot of them earlier, but I think that it's important to point out how I feel about this, because I know there are some in the audience that have requested that we look at the city manager and throw him out. And what I have to say is I've worked with him for 8 years now. This is my 8th year. And I can tell you there has been numerous incidents that when he found out about anything, he took such immediate action with certainty. I know that if he knew or suspected any of the activity that was in that report, I know with all of my being that he would have immediately went to investigators. There is not a person in the world that can convince me otherwise. There's not many people in this world that I can say that about. Those are my facts. Did I still investigate this? Did I question him to no end? Did I speak to the sheriff specifically about this? Did I speak with staff members? Did I speak to department heads? Yes, yes, and yes. Am I furious about what happened down there under that chief? I don't even want to call him chief. I am furious. I am upset. No one should ever have to go through that, ever. But I have to say, Mr. Forte, when you hold the reasonable standard, when you hold up what a reasonable person would do, and you hold you to that standard, I believe that you did take reasonable action to look into it as far as you could with the information that you had at the time. And therefore, I will stand by you through this, because I believe that you made the right decisions. And furthermore, I believe that you are doing the best decisions now. We can't correct what was done. What was done is done, and now all that is left is to pick up the pieces and to be better than we were. I'm confident he is the best man in this position to do that, and I can tell you with certainty, nothing like this will happen again. I'm going to be a citizen, just a normal citizen in a few months. I'm going out of office, thank God, but I've loved my time in office, but I joke that I'll be getting out soon. But I feel confident that we'll have protection on our streets that we can be proud of, that I can trust that my family will be protected. And that's what I can do as your mayor, and that's what I'm going to be committed to do. And I call for our citizens to get behind this next police chief. I call for our citizens to get behind our Holly Hill PD, because these are the times that they need it. These are the times that they need it. It's easy to say that we support police. It's easy to say. But it's harder when they need us to stand up for them. And that's what I'm calling upon every fellow citizen of mine, and that's what I will be doing. And so I just want to make that clear. And furthermore, so the commission knows, yesterday I met with our incoming police chief, and I have to say I received many phone calls from former chiefs, current chiefs, people in law enforcement, high-ranking officials in law enforcement community. Every single one of the phone calls were, "You chose the right guy. He has an outstanding record." People under him and above him called and to tell me that. And so when I met him, and then I hear the whole committee of police chiefs chose him for this position. The one guy stood head and shoulders above everyone else. So my expectations were way up here. I met him, and he exceeded my expectations. He answered every question that I possibly could have thrown at him. He heard my concerns of what is happening in the community and what I think are important to focus on. And he has a lot of plans to come in and make this a professional organization that we're all going to be proud of, including de-escalation and talking about community events and being more involved in the community, implementing transparency and respect and accountability back in. And the main thing he said in his whole thing was that he wants to make this a model agency for small cities all around the state of Florida. And I think that that's something that we're going to be able to build on. And I know that this commission is going to support them. I know that we're going to fund them completely to that end. And so as I look forward from this situation, I have to tell you that I truly, firmly believe that we will be better. And from this, as a community and as a police force, we will emerge better than ever. I am firmly in that belief, and I have that faith. I'm not sitting here telling you what you want to hear. I'm telling you exactly what I believe. So I'll leave it at that. I have really nothing else further big to talk about tonight. So I'll turn it over to our Vice Mayor for his comments.
A couple things. Went through a lot tonight. I just want to say it's my opinion that there's no other city commissioner or city manager more accessible than these people sitting up here right now. I will personally refuse to respond to any anonymous, unsigned emails. I will also not respond to people that are unwilling to learn and grow from the truth. I continually heard so many misfacts spoken tonight by individuals in this audience. I chose not to respond because they wouldn't listen to me anyways. But when it comes to our city manager, we heard people calling for him to resign or to be fired. I appreciate Joe's transparency. I've known him for a long time. I'm not a 25-year-old professional politician like I was accused of. I think it's 19. I'm almost up there with Arthur. He's 22. But I've known Joe for a long time. And I don't know a person that has a better moral or ethical compass than Joe Forte. The easy thing for him to do is to tender his resignation right now and walk away. He doesn't need this. There's only one person in this audience that knows the sleepless nights that he spent, the mental anguish that's been put on his body, the stress that's been put on his stomach and his digestive system and his brain. And I appreciate that, sir, because the easy thing is for you to leave.
Thank you.
And I appreciate that you're going to stay with us and we're going to move forward. So thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Well said. Commissioner?
Thank you, sir. I would just like to start out by saying Mr. Forte didn't bring up Meln's mental health records to slam him here and make him look bad. Those were already out. They're in the IA report if you read the summary. They're in there. And I've seen news reports where Meln was on camera talking about those same issues. So Mr. Forte didn't bring them up here. He just reiterated them so that everybody knew. And it was more of a fair playing field. I can tell you that September of 2023, and I can only speak for myself because I don't talk to these guys about that stuff. I'm not allowed to. I sat down in Mr. Forte's office, and he told me about an email he received from previous Officer Meln. I listened to the email and what had to be said in there, and I also knew, because again, I have close connections to the PD, and always have, I also knew that Mr. Meln went through some troubled times. And he was less than truthful in a couple situations where medical people deemed him as such. So those things all being taken into account, the fact that this email came within a month, I can't remember exactly, but I know it was within a month of the denial of the disciplinary retirement. He hasn't been at the department since January 25th of 2022. So now all of a sudden we see something, we have to say something according to his email. But he hadn't been here. He didn't choose to say something when he left. He chose to wait until after his disability claim was denied. And that's the exact way I looked at it. So I agreed with Mr. Forte that I thought it was a little more out of retaliation than anything else. Am I sorry for that? Oh, hell yeah. Sorry for the curse word. Yes, I am. Because hindsight, being 2020, Monday quarterbacking, I wish I had taken it more serious and didn't look at the fact that he was not super credible. But I can tell you now, in my discussions with Mr. Forte moving forward, every single complaint, I don't care how valid it sounds, how credible the person is, we are looking into every single one of them. As a matter of fact, I think we had a couple complaints in the PD amongst a couple female officers that immediately was looked into. They were a he said, she said thing, but it was taken care of. And that's the way things will be handled here on out to ensure any information that any of us receive, we take it with a little more of a open eye. So I can assure you of that. And I can tell you, I have known Mr. Forte since probably the early 90s, I think it was. When did you come here? 90, 92, something like that?
A month after Forrest got here.
I think he was your training officer.
No, back when I was in the fire department.
Oh, okay.
He was fire chief.
I've known him a long, long time. Like I said, I volunteered in the PD for 20 years for the Police Explorers. I have known Mr. Forte for 10 years of my 12 years as a city commissioner. He's been here. And I do not know of another city manager in the state of Florida that is so respected. He's respected by his peers. He's respected by other council people. Every time we go to something, I can't talk to Joe because everybody else wants to talk to Joe. He is very respected, not only in our county, but in the entire state. And I don't know a person that has more integrity, more honesty, more professionalism, more transparency, because the other city manager I had to deal with certainly wasn't any of that. That would be McCroskey. I'm not afraid to say it. We had our going. You could have a McCroskey back, people. Who wants that? This man is very serious about any allegations. That's why when a victim made the complaint, he immediately had the sheriff's department do the internal affairs investigation. Because he didn't want us doing that on ourselves, so he had them do it. And that's how Sheriff Chitwood came about doing the internal affairs investigation. The sheriff's department just doesn't willy-nilly come into a department and start doing an IA. They have to be requested to do so. He made those steps and made it possible. So we did learn about all this crap from our former, I don't want to call him a chief either, but so, for those reasons, and probably many more that I'm not thinking about, sir, I have no intentions of asking you to relieve yourself of your duties or anything even close to that. So thank you for everything you have done since you and I have been on this together for almost 10 years now.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Daniel?
We went to the same elementary school together. I think I know Joe longer than anybody.
Oh, wow.
In Lake Ronkonkoma. First of all, I want to clear up this politician stuff. I'm a civil servant in my 8th year. There's no politician here. All right? Joe Forte is a man of integrity, but the best thing about Joe Forte for this city is that he's cheap. And that's a good thing to have when you're a city manager.
That's true.
He's very frugal, people, so keep that in mind. But he is a man of integrity, and unfortunately, and I'm a boss, when you get a bad pizza, I could be napping, but I'm the blame. And it's the same thing when it comes to the city manager. He's in charge, so when it comes down to it, if something goes wrong, he's to blame. He could be in Hawaii on a cruise, but he's to blame. So, unfortunately, that's just the way the hammer falls. But unlike my constituent, whatever, I'm not going to belabor this here. But thank you for doing your job, and I'm behind you all the way. Everybody else, thanks for sticking around and going through this, and hopefully we didn't keep you here too long. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Johnson.
I wouldn't go so far as to say it's cheap, but...
Just lean forward into the microphone, though. Pull your microphone.
I wouldn't go so far as to say it's cheap, but I'd say more inexpensive, right? I would look at myself more as being cheap. Fruitful? Yeah. Fruitful.
Now that sounds like political talk.
That's why I didn't use it.
That's a good thing, Joe. I really appreciate it. Every time I call you for anything, if you don't answer, you call back, you give me an answer. You always look into things. I remember when I was still the outgoing mayor, at the time I was outgoing, we brought it up to hire you back. And I think he's the one that instigated it. Was that true, Scott? I think
that's true.
Brought it up. So we decided to bring you back, Joe. I think it was a good decision. I think it worked out good. And I really appreciate you hanging in there. You don't let the people get to you that's so negative, it's against you, things like that and all. And I'm old. I let things roll off my back. I don't let things bother me very much. I've been in business in this area for 50 years, and I have a lot of people that work for me, work with me and all too is all. But the one thing that bothers me more than anything else tonight and other times that I pick up on is that we have a former commissioner that is a criminal because of what he did with some lady that he was working with, that absolutely no charges was even brought against him. And then we was accused of hiring the criminal that did that. It was brought up again tonight. And this past city commissioner is not even alive. He's been dead for like 2 years or something like that. What is the purpose of it? If I was a family member of this commissioner that actually never had any charges brought against him, I think I would file a lawsuit against some other accused people like that. I mean, that is just totally ridiculous. Some things you can just, you're here, you can deal with it, you can take care of it. But if somebody can't do it anymore, his family's got to deal with it. You know what I mean? And why keep bringing that up when absolutely not one single charge was filed against him? You know, it just doesn't make any sense. And I've heard it so many times lately. You hear it online, and then I heard it in person tonight. It's just ridiculous. I don't like that, but otherwise, I deal with the situation. I know that bad things come. I've been through it. Like a lot worse back when we was dealing with the flag issue and all, which was totally false. Never went through all that deal and all. So Scott remembers that as well, right? But on the brighter side, tomorrow is another TPO meeting. So if anybody has anything they'd like me to bring up that's positive, I could bring up to at the airport for the TPO. Because I think we're trying to move forward. Things are picking up somewhat, although we have definitely outgrown the roads. There's no question about it. LPGA is still growing, and the road needs to grow more than just the businesses on the side of the road. You know, I mean, it's getting a little bit out of control, and hopefully LPGA will keep growing and keep getting better as it goes along. But in that, and also our Secretary of District 5, he has a program out that he came out with to have a zero today of any more fatalities. And since the last, maybe not since the last meeting, but that's I remember since the last meeting, we were at 3 automobile against bicycle accidents, 2 of them fatalities. It's just totally ridiculous, you know what I mean? Something's got to be done about it. And the 2 that's on Nova Road, that's probably as far as from here to the door apart from each other, both of them could have been easily prevented. If people pulling out would just look to the right at the sidewalk as the last thing that I try to do before I pull out on the intersection, you know what I mean? Look to the right and see what's coming down the sidewalk, you know what I mean? So 2 of them, within a month or so, one of them was a fatality, the other one, thankfully, it wasn't. The last one was, I think, against a 15-year-old, I believe it was, on a bicycle. And then one of them was in Port Orange against a child, you know, which is ridiculous. But I'm going to bring something up about that tomorrow. That can be prevented. I mean, even if you go up there and put like a sign up at that stop sign saying, yield to the sidewalk. You know, look at the sidewalk so you can yield for it or something like that, you know what I mean? But otherwise, I think the City of Holly Hill is moving forward. I know for sure that this police department is going to get straightened out. I know for sure that this new police chief is going to get it straightened out. I remember probably about a month ago, his former boss, which used to be the Daytona Beach police chief, called me and told me, he said, this guy has applied, he told me his name, Brian Williams, said he has applied for this police chief job. He said, if you guys don't hire him, you're stupid. Or something like that. You're stupid or totally idiots or something like that. He said, because he will do it and get it straightened out. And then after all he said that, all this came together with all these applicants and all, he came out on top. I thought it was great. So I called him back and told him, I said, well, you're correct. I said, if we don't hire him, we're idiots. But we hired him, so now I guess we're not idiots. So he will, that's former police chief, said he will be here for the inauguration. He has it on his calendar, so that's a good thing. You know what I mean? So he said, he used to work for me. He'll come in and straighten it out. There's no question about it. So I take him at his word. He's been here for the last 3 times that I got elected and swore me in, you know what I mean? And one of my very best friends said, I depend on what he says, and he told me that about a month ago, and look what's happened now, you know what I mean? But I appreciate it, Joe. I really appreciate you hanging in there. I appreciate you getting it straightened out. I knew you would. I didn't have any question about it. I knew you wasn't going to roll over, play dead, and give up, you know what I mean? But thank you very much.
I got a good mayor and commission.
And a good city attorney.
And a good...
Well, he doesn't work for the manager.
But he does a lot for me. That's good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you to the whole commission. And thank you to everyone for coming out and actually staying through the whole meeting. We appreciate you. We hear you. And let's continue to move on forward with the City of Holly Hill. All right. Is there any further city business before us? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.